Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to some more Warpforge content. And I know it's been a while, and we're mostly going to be focusing on Harry's screen here today with going over some of the brand new reinforcement drop for the Ultramarines. But I'm happy to be back making some content, and really the only way I could have come back was to work with Harry on another episode of Card Talk, and this will be episode 4, and we're going to do something pretty similar to, I think, when we had the Chaos episode, talk a little bit about the raid, talk a little bit about, you know, kind of the new stuff coming to Warpforge, because we've had a lot of announcements, but and I'm a little under the weather, so we're just chilling with our Discord pictures today. But Harry, how are things going? What's going on with you, my man?
What's happening? Yeah, it's good to be back on the podcast. I do enjoy it. Been playing a bit of Warpforge, not as much as I would like. I ain't got in the top 50 yet.
Well,
ended in the top 50.
I told you my terrible story. I was telling Harry this morning. I went to bed last night, top 50. Woke up top 51. Sadly, so
yeah, no, that's pain. Oh.
I got my little pity epic card that they sent me instead of my legendary, which I was hoping for, but that's okay. You still get a bunch of like gems and all that stuff, so like I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you get about 3k. I think I got 3k.
I think that sounds right to me. Yeah, legendary division. I think if you're there, and then I think you get 6k if you're at least in top 50. I think you get much more even if you're in top 10. You get even more. Someday I would love to like grind it out to top 10. I don't know when that day will be, but
yeah.
But yeah, it's it's great to have you, and I definitely wasn't playing a ton during this last season, but towards the end I was definitely trying to hit top 50, so I grinded out a little bit. So we'll maybe talk a little bit about where things are at, but really I think the first thing we want to get into is the just that this is going to be our second raid that's been live. I think there's about 3 days left, and we're about to hit the last node, or the last point to unlock the legendary. So in terms of this whole thing, like last time we had talked about, oh, like what if we don't hit the last milestone, like how is that all going to play out? There was kind of this like thing where it was like, if we didn't hit it, we're not going to get it. I mean, last time we got the legendary, this time it didn't even seem close. Like we'll probably be there tomorrow and have like a full 2 days to 3 days, because I think there's a grace period for redeeming your tokens. So really now, I guess, for free-to-play players, it's about how many tokens can you grind up, to get that legendary Tech Marine. But yeah, it seems like it's been going well. What have your thoughts been on the raid this time around, Harry?
It's been a lot shorter.
Yes. Yep.
I think the raid was smaller as well. There was less things, because I remember I got a card back in the last raid.
Oh yeah, we did get a card back, didn't we?
Do you remember there was a card back? Because I remember I got it. I remember I got the card back. I actually quite liked it. It was but the thing is though, what did you think? I think the longer raid was better. I think they should disband it over 2 weeks. Like, it gives you longer to grind out them tokens,
Yeah, I did want to talk about that. That's a good point to bring up. I mean, I conceptually, like, I kind of like the shorter raid, because it's going to affect like the ranked ladder and just the general meta less than it would have. Like, we're not going to have 2 weeks of everyone playing Chaos or Space Marines. We'll have like 1 week.
Yeah. Yeah, now I understand. Yeah.
Like, from that perspective, I think that it's better. But you make a good point about the fact that, like, if let's go with free-to-play player, right? If you're putting any money into this, you're going to get what you're going to get. But for the free-to-play player, you can get 60 tokens each day from the special Ultramarines bonus, and then you get 5 tokens per win, right? Or like per amount of skulls, and then if you lost, it's like one token or 2 tokens. Um, so you really have to grind. So I've been playing, like I've been doing my daily plus like I don't know, another 10 games maybe each day, and so I should be able to hit the legendary at the end, but that's probably the only card that I'll be able to get. So that part, I think, to Harry's point, is not so great for free to play players. They're not going to have enough time to accrue enough tokens to get more than just the legendary. Um, I don't have to worry too much because I got 30 Ultramarine packs just sitting there waiting to be opened. But I understand not everyone's going to have that. So I guess really the question is, should we have more time so people can really grind out more of the cards, or do we not see that as valuable? And I think just talking about it, like it probably would be better to have a longer event or allow for players to grind faster but not have to pay into that. And I don't know what that could look like, but I think that would be an improvement to the raid system.
I know this is probably because I know you're a Space Marines lover and you love Space Marines, but what did you think of this free cost legendary compared to the Chaos free cost legendary?
I think it's definitely not as powerful. Is kind of how I feel. Like, I'm actually trying to remember exactly what the Tech Marine does. I know it heals a vehicle. It also grants armor, I think.
Yeah, Codex, give armor and heal.
Yeah. So it's 3 melee, 2 ranged, 4 health, I think.
4 melee, 2 range, 4
4, 2, 4. I mean, it's the stats are basically just a little bit changed. I mean, obviously the armor is pretty huge. But yeah, I still think it's a little, on its face, it's definitely less powerful than the Chaos 3 cost legendary. But again, I wouldn't want 3 cost legendaries to be too powerful because they come down early and it's easier to play throughout the course of the game. But I would have loved something more along the lines of not healing, but to grant like +1 health. Like I know that can get powerful too. Like I've been playing a lot of Tyranids lately and just thinking about how easy it is to just get extra health on units, and that's kind of like how they're built. So I wouldn't want that to always be transferred to different factions, but healing is super conditional on like how useful it is, right? Because it implies that the unit has to survive damage to then benefit from the heal. So yeah, I think it's heal 3, which is pretty hefty. But like again, with a game where it's pretty easy to clear units generally, or you build your deck to do that, like how much is that heal going to do for you? That's kind of my thought process. But
yeah, like with the Chaos one though, it was like you'd be able to stick that in any Chaos deck.
Oh,
whereas,
yeah.
like the Space Marines one is only vehicles, because you're not gonna really want something that heals and gives armor to your vehicle if you haven't got a vehicle.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And you're gonna want to you either play, like if you're thinking about the curve, you're either playing the 4-drop common, that Codex is +1 range, right? So you would go Tech Marine into that. It gets an armor, right? It's not going to heal. That doesn't really matter. And then I guess on 5, you're trying to play your Impulsor. So like you definitely can see a pretty nasty start, just having your vehicles have armor. But like you said, Harry, I think the tension for me that we keep seeing within Ultramarines as a faction is like there are a lot of good infantry units and there are like a couple good vehicles, but I wouldn't say that the vehicles are all that attractive compared to some of their infantry, mates. So yeah, you would have to go more all in on the vehicle strategy, and I'm still just not sure if we're there yet. But I do think we'll talk about rapid deployment later on. That card maybe allows for more of these expensive vehicle decks to function better because it's gonna reduce the cost. But yeah, I would have liked to see I don't know. I just would have. I agree with you. I think it would have been nicer to see a legendary that just kind of generally benefited the Ultramarines and maybe not just vehicles.
Yeah, you know, like, yeah, like one that was all round, like, not just the vehicles.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure we're all probably going to want to test it and see if it's good enough. And I think in terms of like its cost and its stats, it's totally fine. Um, it's really going to be about can you really take advantage of that Armor 1 codex, and how much does that impact the game. In certain matchups, it'll probably be great. In other matchups, probably won't matter. But we'll kind of have to see. And I am excited for us to talk about the new Ultramarine cards. I actually thought we were going to get this reinforcement drop way later because they had done the whole kind of faction rework, if you will, a month or two ago. So it's exciting to talk about that. I mean, we've also got some news coming up. We should be getting alliances, which are like basically teams within the game. I mean, really any time now. I would expect the next announcement to be about that because that's what they said in the roadmap. I can't wait for that. I just want to have a team with Harry. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, we'll have to put a team together. You know what? But like,
gotta get the squad, dude.
Yeah, but like, I don't think it'd be wise if like all of us just jumped in the same one. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like we all need, like, me and you need one, like Elysiak and BJ need one, like, do you know what I'm saying? We should all be in separate ones so we can compete against each other.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, we might have to spread it out a little bit.
Even though playing against them's gonna be rough.
Oh, it's always rough, but it's always fun. So
yeah, like them two are gonna be a rough match, but
yeah,
I feel like that's what you should do. Yeah,
I can't wait. I think Alliances is going to be a really, really nice system to add to the game. It seems like they wanted to push out more of the factions and the different card content first before they got this system change going, or maybe they needed more time. But it's on its way, and so I'm excited about that. And then the last, other couple bits of news, other than the roadmap, is that we'll have Gene Stealers next quarter, whenever that kind of is, alongside the Kroot, it looks like, reinforcement for the Tau. I know a lot of people are hyped for that, especially after Tau, excuse me, got so nerfed. I still think that they're very playable, but they're certainly not the menace that they were. So I think some folks are going to be reinvigorated, and maybe Kroot will really offer a different play style, which I think would be nice because people just don't want to see drones, and so Kroot will probably be a bit more aggro, maybe stealth oriented or something like that. And then they said, although I know Harry and I were talking about this earlier, there will be some sort of change to ranked, or like an improvement, I think is what they said in the roadmap. So I would love to see what that is, because trying to hit top 50 and the grind and all of that, especially towards the end of the season, can feel really, really tough. And I don't know exactly what the fix is, but I'm kind of excited to see what that system change looks like so that people are enjoying ranked a bit more. Because I see a lot of the same faces, in like 3K plus ranked. And I would love to see more people doing that. And I think any improvement to the rank system probably would help with that. But I'm actually really hyped for Gene Stealers, Harry. I don't know how much you know about them, but their whole thing is kind of, it's like sort of from the Tyranids, but it's a different branch of them. It's kind of sweet.
I'm not gonna lie to you, yeah. Like, obviously, I don't really know much about Warhammer. I know a little tiny. I scratched the surface. When I see at the Warhammer event, when they showed the picture of the Gene Stealers, yeah, I thought they were gonna be a reinforcement thing for the elves, the Eldar. I thought they were just like a different, like.
Oh.
I didn't know Gene Stealers were like their own faction.
Yeah. It's sort of. It's and I guess the easiest way to do it was to do it as like a faction, but yeah, I don't know what that's gonna look like. I'm really interested because there's when I had listened to some lore about them, they're supposed to be like each generation of Gene Stealer is supposed to be trying to get closer and closer to kind of manipulating the Imperium and doing all this kind of like political stuff, but also like if they get activated, they'll be able to like take everyone out and be super smart and super strong. So I'm so hyped to see what their mechanics look like and kind of what their style is in the game. Um, so we've definitely got some pretty interesting and exciting stuff coming up, and I definitely give Warpforge the credit that there's been something new to really work on or talk about each month this year. So
Oh yeah, do you know what? They've kept up. Like even one of my friends, I said I was with him today, and I said I'm gonna go do a podcast. That a new set's come out. He went, "What? Another new set?" He's like, "Bro, that they are releasing content, ain't they?" Like, and I said, "Yeah, like that's something they're doing quite well." Like, I feel like I ain't even finished eating like the sisters content, whereas like because I'm
yeah,
missing like one legendary to be like, but I'm doing it slow. Like I'm not, I didn't really, I bought the campaign, but I didn't really buy no packs or nothing. Just slowly opening them. Like, do you know what I'm saying? I'm taking joy in collecting the things slowly,
yep,
but yeah, I feel like I ain't even finished there. Now I've got all this Space Marine stuff.
yeah. I still haven't finished collecting everything for Sisters. I'm missing the 9-drop legendary, which is something I'm still looking to get and play. Yeah,
Same as me. I'm missing that 9-drop as well. Because it was last on my list to sort out the 9-drop.
yeah, yeah. The St. Catherine.
Yeah.
I think it is really strong. So, and I like more of the Morventhal kind of control list with that. But yeah, I mean, Sisters has been out. There's been a lot of chat. They came in pretty underpowered. They got buffed across the board. I think they still struggle. Like I got to be honest, I didn't think that the changes were going to be enough. Um, and I think that's been mostly proven true. Like even Slither, shout out to them. I think they were a top 3 or top 5 player this last ranked season. They played a ton. There was a time where they were only playing Sisters of Battle, and I think they got to, at least 3,500 if not higher. Um, a lot of Erica, like more of that, and I think Erica did become more competitive, but even them, Slither, I think stopped playing that list because they were like, yeah, this is just it's not possible for me to climb like as high as I should be with other decks with Sisters of Battle. So I think they really need to take a look at some of those epics. I think they need to take a look at some of um, just the understanding that faith is not easy to accumulate, um, and hopefully they'll be more competitive. I think their lore, their aesthetic, and like even the card design is super cool. I just don't think that they're able to compete in a game that really rewards you for having flankers and for having tempo threats. Like it's hard to set up and just hope that it's going to work out. So
Yeah. That like I can't. I struggle with the sisters. I've played a few times and like, yeah, I'll struggle with them. So like, it's not fun to come on and lose loads and loads of games. That's
no,
not fun. So I like, as much as I like them, I like the aesthetic. I like everything about the sisters. Like the card, the like the Baldar. Like it looks wicked. The
oh yeah,
cards look sick.
yeah.
Like, bro, everything. But losing, I'd rather play chaos, or I'd rather like something where I'm gonna win.
Yeah, you eventually hit a wall with Sisters, or like there's so many, they have so many bad matchups that you're kind of loading into the game, and like when you get a good matchup, great, you're playing the game, you're playing the deck the way you're supposed to. But when probably more than half of the factions have a good matchup into you, you just feel like you have like the weights on, like in every matchup you're trying so hard just to play the game, and it gets tiring. Respect to those who have been sticking with the Sisters of Battle. I'm hopeful that in the next balance patch, they'll get a little bit more love. Like, I really don't want them to kind of get forgotten about. Not in the same way that like Tau were after they got nerfed, but I would like for that faction to feel more competitive, and I think we're close, but I don't think we're there yet. I think there are a couple cards that really could use some love, and just like pack a little bit more power into the Sisters of Battle, so that even if you don't get Faith, that you've still got decent stats or a decent, effect to your board, that you can still fight through it. But on the other end of the spectrum, for the Imperium, we've got the good old boys in blue, the Ultramarines here, and I definitely wanted to talk with Harry and go through some of these cards. I have played against a few of them. I don't have any yet. I'm waiting to crack my packs, but are we ready to kick it off here, Harry, with Chaplain Lotharius?
100%. But before we do, how upset are you that we didn't get the man in gold armor?
Dude, don't remind me, man. I mean, I guess it was too soon to say that we might see a Mr. Gilliman himself. I am a little upset. I would have loved to see, like, Tech Marine's cool. Lotharius seems cool as well, but it's no Gilliman. So
that's the thing. They missed the Gilliman. They missed him. I see him in all the cards, and I was hyped because I remember seeing him from the start, going, "Oh, I don't even know who this guy is, but I know he's like, when he comes,
he's important."
Yeah, he's gonna be a cool hero. But maybe like they've got a whole nother plan with that sort of card. Do you know what I'm saying?
I have to imagine we're gonna get it at some point. Like, I mean, what's different about Horus Heresy in this game, right, is that Horus Heresy is like all these different chapters of Space Marine and other things like that. So like you've got all these Primarchs, you've got all these like special hero units, all that. In this game, we just so far have the Ultramarines in terms of the Space Marine factions. So I imagine we're going to get him at some point, because it would be kind of a missed opportunity not to, but I guess they didn't want to push it out this early. I don't know.
Yeah. So we got the Black-O, who's cool. Like, how can you look at that and not go, wow, actually, this is a cool card? His mask is wicked. Like...
Oh, yeah. No, I love Chaplain. The whole thing of, like, Chaplains is kind of sweet anyway. Like, they're a little bit closer to Sisters of Battle. Like, they're kind of more these zealots, like not necessarily religious, but they're kind of leading the charge in that way. But yeah, the bike and everything. I was wondering if this was going to be like a specific hero card, but it's actually the legendary warlord that we get for the faction. So what are your thoughts on Mr. Lotharius, Harry? What do you think of this card?
He's the first ever hero to come with a strike. Every time you strike, something happens, which is cool.
Yeah, aside from Harkon, but you do have to pay 2 to get that effect, right? So,
but I think, I don't know, it's hard, isn't it? When you've got the other one, the 40 health one, it's just hard to put them side by side, because the heal, you feel bad if you don't use the strike on every turn, but sometimes you're gonna have nothing to heal.
I think they intentionally made this kind of underpowered, and I get why, because if this said add 1 health to adjacent units, it would be absolutely broken. And even if it just added 1 health to 1 unit, with how powerful the Ultramarine units tend to be, it probably would be, again, a little bit too broken. What I will say for it is that with the amount of flankers, sorry for my voice, everybody, I'm still a little bit sick, is that you can play your 3-drop flanker, and play the Inceptor, kill something, right, and then attack with your chaplain to heal up 1 health that you traded off. So I think what Chaplain Nefarious can do is, like, in some of those tempo matchups, you do get a little bit of value back from having flankers come in and survive some damage to be able to be healed back up again. It's not going to be, it's certainly not broken. It's quite underpowered, but I think from a design standpoint, it's probably better that they did this than, fully heal something or, giving it +1 health. That probably would have been a bit too overboard. But I kind of want to try Chaplain Nefarious with, like, a very typical kind of infantry style, like just play all of the best Ultramarine units. Kind of, I would basically port over my deck list from Calgar kind of mid-range and play it with Chaplain Nefarious. And I'd be interested to see if I stick more flank units in, or just make it a little bit more infantry heavy because of his ability, which we'll talk about. Maybe he's good, but it is hard to see. Like, I think he might be genuinely better than Uriel at the moment, but I don't know if it's ever, like Harry and I were talking about earlier, I don't know if it's going to compete with Calgar.
No, it would never compete with Calgar, but we ain't tested him, and, like, you can look at a card as much as you like and you can, like, determine what you think, but until you get them reps in with him, no one's gonna know.
Yeah, exactly. I am interested to play him. I think that he could probably have a pretty good spot in the meta as just like an aggro plus card advantage kind of warlord. But yeah, I don't know that it's going to take away. It's not going to be probably the top warlord to be playing for Ultramarines, but I think he's probably in the running. I mean, Tigurius has a lot of benefits. There's been a lot of Tigurius with Avenging Zeal builds that have been running around. I'm still not necessarily convinced that they are the best thing to be doing with Space Marines, because you can have draws where it's kind of awkward. And you can fall behind against certain aggressive matchups like Swarm Lord or things like that. So Tigurius is still kind of, hanging in the meta, but still probably not as good as Calgar. Chaplain Nefarious might be kind of somewhere in the middle there between Tigurius and Calgar. And I do want to play with it. I think it's an interesting change in the design space. What do you think of his ability, Harry? The warlord ability.
That's the next one along, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Ethereum, give one. Right.
And troop includes vehicle. So this will draw you a vehicle or an infantry unit, and when it says give +1 range to your troops, that will include anything on your board that is a vehicle or an infantry unit.
And you're a troop, and you?
No, the warlord doesn't count as a troop. It would have to say unit if that were the case.
I think this is good.
Yeah, I think the thing to talk about with this warlord is the ability, right? Kind of does everything.
Aggro. This is aggro. This is definitely aggro.
Yeah, I mean, what I love about it is it has 2 modes to it, and we know, from past experience, like when you don't have something on the board, it does something. When you do have something on the board, it does something else, and that's generally been very good, right? So giving +1 ranged attack to your troops that are in play, right? Multiple units can receive that when you're, basically what this allows you to do is when you're advantaged on board, it's going to push that advantage.
Oh, what was that one, Angels of Death?
Oh yeah, that makes 3, I think it got nerfed a while back, but now it's 7 energy, 3 of the 3 drops. Yeah.
Have they got 2... They've got 2 attack, ain't they? 3 health, 2 attack.
Yes. Yep.
so you can give them free attack. Free attack. That's 9
Yeah.
9 attack you have.
Yeah, that actually might be a decent application for that card, because yeah, Angels of Death has not seen play in quite a long time. But I mean, if you're able to buff a bunch of units, that does seem kind of nice.
Oh, and the 1 attack stays as well.
Yes, it's permanent.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I thought it was just for the turn.
Nope. Yeah, I mean, you're really getting your bang for your buck if your unit's not dead.
So you want flying units then, because then they have to attack into your flying units. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's right. They have to trade on the ranged attack, which unless they themselves have flying units, right? And really, the only faction that punishes you for playing flying units at times is
The elves.
Yeah, Eldar. Yeah, and they sadly the pointy ear boys have not gotten anything new in quite a long time, and they've kind of fallen into like middle tier, I would say, out of all the factions. So
I
you're
still
not.
have success though with the
Oh yeah.
Galadriel, whatever her name is.
Oh yeah, Madriel Galen.
Madriel,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
I still have success with it. I can still win like in,
totally.
in 3K rating with that deck. I played it a couple of days ago. I had to get 15 spirit stones for a daily challenge, and I went, all right, let me play her. I played her. I won 2 games and lost 1. So like, you can still have success with it. Yeah, and that's that old deck from all that time ago.
Yeah, it's like the old Shrigma deck list, I think that he had pioneered.
People forget, like, because they don't see them a lot. They don't always remember all the cards. So like they might drop a 6-cost flyer now, and I might have that airplane that I drop, and it does 6 damage and just wipes out whatever's flying. You know?
Yeah, the Raven. Yeah, they still have some really great matchups, and I think generally have a way to win against most decks. Like they are kind of that diehard. We're kind of good. Like you can maybe win into anything. But yeah, they specifically have some of the best answers to flying units in particular. So like it is if the meta shifts to where, you know, playing this chaplain with the exaltation of rage, playing a bunch of flying units, right? It's possible that Eldar actually could be a really good answer to this sort of strategy. And I just love that if you don't have a troop on the board, it draws you a vehicle or an infantry unit. Like that's just like this is the perfect kind of balance between you're not getting punished because you don't have a board because you're going to draw into it. And I think often you're probably just going to fire this off the first turn, draw an extra card, right? And then once you start establishing a board presence, maybe you on 5 energy you play a flanker, and then exhortation of rage, your flanker plus maybe like the 2-drop that lived. So there, it seems powerful to me.
See the 2. I don't think you're going to play this one 2 because that one that is a 2-drop that gives you when you drop it, if it's
the firstborn.
The firstborn, yeah, that's like that's so solid as a 2.
It is. That is the best 2-drop for them by far.
Yeah, like you can always drop if that's in your hand. You're always going to drop that because it goes to 3. Then if on turn 3 you can drop something else and get it to 4, and they just can't. Do you know what I'm saying? And they can't. Yeah, I think. But if that weren't in your hand and you had this, you would use this.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of deck I want to play, is one that, you know, kind of it can do both things. It can either draw me to what I want, or it can pump up my board. And
I'm actually excited to get this.
Yeah. I think the front side of this warlord is kind of like but then this warlord ability is quite strong. It feels like.
I'm more excited to get this than I was to get the Chaos Legendary.
Yeah.
You know, the guy with the horns.
Yeah, I can see that.
if we put to the side that we're Chaos main, Space
Ultramarine.
Marine mains, yeah. If we put that to the side, I'm still more excited for this legendary if they were both in the same faction, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Because this legendary here is gonna be very, like, it's gonna be rewarding for when you can up certain amount of damage through your hero ability.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how strong this can be. I think the note Harry makes about flying units. Another thing I'm thinking about is you could maybe justify playing Avenging Zeal in your deck, which is definitely, we'll talk a little bit about that card because I think it has been kind of the talk of the town since it got reworked for Space Marines. What Exhortation of Rage allows you to do in certain ways, in certain matchups, will be to thin your deck, right? So you're able to draw troops and, whenever you cast it, whenever you have nothing on the board. What that allows you to do is have a higher chance, right, of hitting your Avenging Zeal. So it's not like playing Tigurius, where you can just put that thing in your hand, which is obviously pretty powerful. But you could still run it in the sense that you've got a bunch of Codex units, and if you're thinning out your deck by, drawing a couple extra cards per game, it might actually make Avenging Zeal, a decent choice as kind of a curve topper. What I will say is that I've played with and against Tigurius, playing, one tactical or two tactical insights, which are the re-trigger Codex cards, and then Avenging Zeal, and then playing only Codex infantry, or vehicles, so that you can pretty reliably play Avenging Zeal on 6 to 8 energy. It's been pretty powerful. I still think you can get out aggroed, that you can have some pretty bad matchups, but I think Avenging Zeal, it went from a literally not playable legendary card to probably one of the strongest legendaries in the game. And so I think everyone's now trying to figure out, okay, is it better to play Tigurius, where you can guarantee it? Is it better to play Calgar, where you're going to draw extra cards and then probably get it some point later, but you've got extra health to play it with? I'm curious if Avenging Zeal actually makes it into this new Warlords builds. I think that it probably would. And I do think that it is a pretty strong legendary now. And I'm curious if we need to make Avenging Zeal cost a little bit more so that people aren't reliably playing it on 6 to 8 energy for 0. Because that's the thing. When you can play that card for 0 and you have 2 to 3 units on the board, which is not that hard to set up in certain matchups, in some it would be. It just feels absolutely broken. I don't know what you think about that, Harry, in terms of Avenging Zeal.
Yeah, every time I've seen it, it's been because I play more of an aggressive game, so like I'm sometimes taking them more riskier plays with my health total just to get the game done a little bit quicker, So in terms of my gameplay, I'm having trouble with the Zeal because when it comes out, I've not got the resources in my health to outlive it,
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to win the game once that thing drops. And I think because the way that they changed it, where you can essentially play 1 to 2 troops, get some early Codex triggers, and then on a certain turn you get a couple Codex triggers after playing another Codex unit, then you tactical insight, get another trigger, and then be able to play Zeal for 0 or 1 or 2 on 6 to 7 energy when you have 2 or 3 units on the board. It is pretty much impossible to beat that. Unless you're playing orcs, maybe, and you can, use your Will of Gork or something like that. And I haven't seen a ton of orcs running around lately. Anyway, just a side note, Avenging Zeal may need to be changed. And I think I would probably try testing it in this new Warlords deck just to see if, kind of like Calgar, where you're drawing extra cards, if it makes it worth it, but you don't have the extra 5 health kind of cushion. Yeah.
I was going to say also, you see with Codex, there's no way of um, counterplay. You can't counterplay Codex because it's like you put your
No.
cards out and they happen. Like you see that with the sisters and like the elves and that, you can counterplay because you can always, oh, I can't let them get that, and you can spend more on countering
Yeah.
their thing where you can't with the Space Marines.
No, it just happens. That's a really good point. Like there is no interaction, right? It's gonna happen, and you just have to like deal with it. And I think so. I would, I definitely will get into some of the other new cards in a minute, but I would say that my fix, and I talked with Buggy about this and some other top players. I think you just need to increase Avenging Zeal's total cost probably to 9 or 10. I would probably say 10. Um, I still think people would play it, but it's not going to feel as oppressive as it is right now.
Yeah.
I'm still not convinced that it's like the best thing to be doing because I have played Tigurius in a few different builds with it, and even when it feels like I should be going off, it's at times like kind of clunky to set up, or I can't really stick enough units for it to work. Um, that might just be me, being kind of new to the strategy, but yeah, I think there's probably a change needed for the card, especially with Ultramarines getting some new and shiny toys. So, yeah, I'm excited for this Warlord. It sounds like you are too, Harry.
I'm really excited for him.
What else we got? All right, we got Scout Bike coming in at 2 energy, 3 health, pretty abysmal attack stats. Camouflage, right? When an enemy is deployed, deal 2 damage to it.
Oh, this got me, because I didn't really know. I didn't really know. I played my two drop and it got killed. What was it? I played something.
You played against it and it died.
Yeah. I can't remember what it was, but I played something at 2 health. I forget now. I forget, but I did this literally. He got value out of this. It killed something, and then I was like, what? And then I clicked it because I thought it was when you attack, it deals 2 damage to it.
And there is a card that does something like that, but yeah, the Scout Bike is interesting. I mean, it's a very low cost vehicle. So I think, this is kind of putting, again, a little bit more emphasis on the vehicle strategy within Ultramarines. I mean, taking 2 health off of 1 to 2 units in the early game is certainly not terrible. I mean, in certain matchups, this is going to get killed very easily by a flank unit. But the fact that it has camouflage and you can just run it out, it seems like a decent 2-drop. I kind of like it in terms of its stats and like the fact that it'll get a little bit of advantage. So you could play like 2 Scout Bikes and play 2 Firstborn in kind of a more aggro style deck. I don't know. Did it seem annoying to play against for you, Harry?
I killed it. I did kill it, but it killed my minion, and then I killed it, so it got value.
Yeah, it's
when
got
I
the 3 health.
It, and then like I was thinking, say like you pop this down, and like not like a Swarm Lord or a Ghoul Drag or Saddle, whatever. I want to kill this. And can only do 2 attack. Might attack it for 2, and leave it on 1, and then you attack and you heal.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of annoying, right? Because it makes your opponent have to decide, do I give up a unit for them, like, to be attacked by the Warlord, or do I not play the unit at all and spend 2 turns killing the Scout Bike?
Or, like, you put this down on turn 2, and then you get the legendary Attack Marine on turn 3.
That's true. Yeah.
Which will give it armor.
It'll give it armor, and then it will heal it to full if it's taken damage previously.
But you've got to be lucky to get them 2 together. I don't think that's going to be something that happens every game.
That's true. I do want to try this card. I'm not saying that it's that great, because obviously it's able to be killed relatively easily. But I do think that this kind of thing and the fact that it's camouflage and it could just sit there not attacking and like kind of disrupt your opponent's board a little bit or their curve a little bit. I think that might be useful. Like Space Marines don't have that many 2-drops that are proactive besides Firstborn. And so I kind of like what Scout Bike is doing for 2
Also,
energy.
if someone was to use a flank on this, say like a Chaos Marine was to use their 3-cost flank,
Yeah.
or like even Space Marine uses their 3-cost flank, they're using their flank on such a...
And they're trading it, right? Because it's gonna be very close, taking 2 damage.
Like
yeah.
you would want your flank for a little bit later on for something a bit more juicier, you know?
Yeah.
Like to use your flank on this is like
kind
it's
of
like
a
a game
waste.
within a game. Yeah. Like you've made them use one of their serious resources for something that like I feel like people are gonna look at this and think that it's gonna be worse than what it is.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
to leave it, I feel like the 2 damage to your minion, I feel like people might think it's gonna, oh, I've got to get rid of this quick. Where like later on, that flank might have been better used.
Yeah. I want to play with this card. I'm interested to see how this goes. Side note, I love the amount of motorcycles we're getting on cards for this drop.
Cool.
This is awesome.
Sons of Anarchy, isn't it? Yeah.
Very much, yeah. Just some bolters attached to the front. You know, you're good to go. Sweet. Yeah. No, I'm excited for Scout Bike. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
And here we get another bike.
This is serious.
So the Outrider, yeah. I mean, I think this a lot of people were excited for. So 3 energy, 3 health, 3/2 flank, but its codex is gain +2 melee this turn. So this is a 5 power flanker. You know, as long as you're triggering that codex. Worst case scenario, it's a 3 energy flanker. It is a vehicle. Yeah, I mean, 5 melee on a flank is like really, really strong. I mean, look no further than Nadu Fireheart for the Eldar. Whenever that thing takes out a unit and lives, it feels insane. But even if it just trades, its 5 attack into something for 3 or 4 energy, it feels really, really good.
This is serious card. You never really want to play this when it ain't gonna codex though.
Yeah, that's the only awkward card or part about the card. And thinking about the curve and what we already have, I love Ultramarines because they have 2, to me, of the best aggro 3-drops in the game. You've got Sternguard Sergeant, which is insane stats and a really good codex. And then you've also got the 3-drop Inceptor, which is a great flank unit, and it's especially good into certain matchups. But then I would sometimes run the other Sergeant that would ping something for 1. And I always was like a little underwhelmed by that unit. I would probably give Outrider the spot over that card. And especially if we're running more of a vehicle-centric build, which it does feel like there's a lot more support for that with this reinforcement drop, then I think Outrider makes the cut. I think this card is pretty solid.
Yeah, he makes the cut. This guy makes the cut, definitely.
Because what I love about this card is, like, at times the counter, especially when you're playing against Chaos as Ultramarines, is that they can camouflage their units, right? So you can't Inspired Retribution. But if you have an Outrider that punches for 5, or if you Tactical Insight and Codex it again, it can punch for 7, right? Like, that's going to kill most units you need it to kill. And that's a pretty low investment at 3 energy. So,
oh yeah,
I think we'll be riding off into the sunset with this guy.
This gives you 1 range, and you're never going to be attacking with range on this guy.
That's true. It's a little bit of an anti-synergy there.
Yeah.
And you know what? I could even see playing like 1 Outrider. Maybe you don't need 2, but like I think I definitely want to see how the matchups go. It is possible that Outrider could be a little bit too awkward or clunky in the curve, but on face value, this is just kind of like a better, like I forget what it's called, but the 3-drop chaos flanker, that hits for 4. This can hit for 5,
Yeah.
and it's also got
Yeah.
ranged attack.
And it also activates Codex, so it makes your Zeal go
Yes, it sure does. It's another Zeal enabler. So, I don't know. I mean, we're getting more support for that as well. So, yeah, I think Outrider has quite a bit of potential. In certain matchups, it's going to feel worse, but I think that it's still just a really, really strong tempo option for like, an aggressive deck with this new Warlord, or with potentially like Calgar mid-range aggro.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
Yeah,
Good. That's why he's epic, though. That's why. Yeah.
he sure is.
Then we've got
And here we've got the Tech Marine. Yeah, so
Tech
we talked a bit about this card already, but I think, I mean, the stats are pretty solid for this card as a 3-drop, and the Codex for the armor is going to be mostly the relevant stat, but healing 3 to your vehicles, we talked about earlier, could potentially have some decent value. Yeah, I mean, I think this card's going to see play in the vehicle decks for sure. The question to me is, can a more all-in vehicles build actually be competitive? Because I tried it last patch, tried it when all the reworks came in, tweaked a lot of it, and really what I came to the conclusion of is there are a couple vehicles that are worth it, and there really aren't enough to make me go all in. But maybe with some of these motorcycles, which look sick, and Primaris Tech Marine, maybe it's worth it.
Yeah. 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 I don't know about this one.
And hopefully we'll all get this guy from the raid event. I think that's what everyone's hoping for.
If we've got him and the vehicle, we're gonna have to test him out.
Yeah.
He has to be tested out. Like, imagine you give your tank, the 6 cost, or no, it's 5 cost tank armor. 6 health now, he's got armor, like, and he's just pumping out troops, boom, boom, and then like you've also got giving them troops.
Yeah, the +1 range.
So,
yep,
like, he looks cool.
He does look cool.
But then Space Marines have got so many good cards.
Yeah.
Like, would you say this guy's better than Cronus?
That's a good question. And the 3-drop slot is getting much more support as well. So, and I feel like there's less and less 4-drops that are that good. Like the Chaplain is the best 4-drop for them. But then Antaro Cronus is pretty great. Like, you do need to take that thing off the board. I think Cronus is a bit stronger than this card in terms of like stats and impact in the game, but I think what Primaris Tech Marine allows you to do is, if you're going second and you've got your Hive Factory, if you're able to go turn 3 Tech Marine, they can't clear it, into 4 energy Impulsor, that is going to be a really, really difficult. Like, only Chaos is really going to have a great way to address that with the spawns. But I think Primaris Tech Marine has more of a high roll ability than Antaro Cronus. Like, if Tech Marine doesn't die, you can really run away with the game. Cronus is kind of similar in that way, but I think Tech Marine, because it's offering armor to potentially multiple vehicles if you're able to stick them, then that could be really, really nasty. But yeah, I agree with you, Harry. I think it's fair to be hesitant about this card. I'm not sure that it's going to do what we need it to. But at face value, this seems like it should see play. Will it be the best way to build Ultramarines? I'm not convinced with vehicles quite yet. But I think that there's certainly more support for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, more and more vehicles here.
Flying. strike, draw a card. So they've not got flanked.
No. Nope. This card kind of feels like the Eldar 4-drop vehicle that didn't really see a lot of play, which was like 1 melee, 3 ranged, 4 health for 4 energy, but it also had Shuriken 3. Like, on its face, it's like a fine statted card, but it's not pulling me into vehicles. Like, I wouldn't play vehicles just because of this card. And it is a common, so okay, yeah, the land speeder might not be that flashy or impressive. I think if the strike did something else, I'd be more interested. But like, I think there's plenty of ways to draw cards for Ultramarines. I mean, I guess land speeder could be good, maybe in like a Uriel build that actually does kind of struggle to have enough cards towards the late game. But I don't really think you would want or need to run this in other warlords. The stats are fine, but I think I'd rather just play a Chaplain or an Antaro Cronus. I don't know. I don't really know that this gets a spot in my vehicle deck. What do you think, Harry?
Oh yeah, it's hard, isn't it? But then, like, are you going to be running Chaplain in a vehicle deck because your vehicles are getting buffed? Like, you've got other cards that synergize with vehicles, make the vehicles give them armor, make them reduce cost and things like that. Why are you going to put a Chaplain in a vehicle deck when you've got, you know what I'm saying?
That's very true. I totally forgot that Chaplain's only going to buff infantry. It's such a good statted card, and like it got buffed and everything, that I'm always thinking about that at the 4-drop slot. But you're right. You wouldn't run them in the same builds. And so I'm trying to think, is there any other 4-drop in a vehicle deck that you would want?
Invader.
Over this. Right, there's Invader, which has pretty good stats. It's also got the 5 health instead of 4 health. But this is a flyer, so it's got that going for it. I would try it. I would try it in a vehicle deck, but I am not terribly excited to play this card.
And maybe some of these cards see adjustments as well. That's another thing.
Yeah. I wonder why they shied away from giving this 5 health. Maybe they thought it was too strong with 5 health, because 4 health is just not much. Like, it's really not hard to clear a 4 health flyer. Sure, it gets maybe 4 ranged attack worth of damage, but it's pretty easy to clear. Like, it's not like the Crisis Battlesuit, which is a 2/4/4 flyer for 3 energy. Although that doesn't have a draw card on it, and the land speeder does. But I think I would rather take the stats than the strike ability, personally.
How many times will this be able to strike with 4 health?
Exactly. That's why it's kind of awkward. Like, if this had 5 health, I think you could make the argument, all right, this is going to get an attack in with 5 health. But with 4 health, really what you have to do is go Tech Marine into this to give it armor, right? Like, that would be your best shot at making sure that your land speeder is going to connect to draw a card. But I would not want to rely on. Yeah, there's armored support at 4. That would also.
For the rest of the game, you'll give 1 armor to all vehicles. So this would be 4 with 1 armor.
Yeah.
If you're playing a vehicle deck, you're probably going to want that in.
I'm still not convinced that card's good. I gotta say. I think it just doesn't, like, if it drew a card or if it did some other secondary effect, I think it would be probably an auto include in any vehicle deck, but I actually think that armored support's kind of a trap card. I don't think you can afford to play 4 energy for that thing. But that's just my experience with it. I was incredibly underwhelmed. But in a really good high roll draw where you go Tech Marine into this, that's a good start, right? Because you've got the armor on the land speeder from the Tech Marine's Codex trigger. That could be good. But I think in a vacuum, this card is pretty underwhelming. But it could be decent with some setup. I just don't know how reliably you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But again, I
Yeah.
haven't actually built decks with these cards yet, so maybe when I'm actually sitting down and being like, here are the 30 cards that are going in my vehicle deck, it's very possible that Land Speeder is the best option at 4 energy. So we'll see. We'll see.
We'll have to wait and see. Yeah.
Yeah.
5.
Okay. Yeah, the Warsuit. Good amount of, decent stats when an enemy attacks, deal 2 damage to it. So again, we're going to run into a similar thing where, okay, this is a 5-drop that has 5 health, not 6. Again, if it had maybe an extra health on top of it, I would be a little bit more excited. This has to live to see the trigger, right? So if this dies, it's not dealing 2 damage to an enemy. But if you play maybe a Vanguard 4-drop and then play Invictor Warsuit, then that might be difficult for them to deal with. But I'm personally not in on this card. But what do you think, Harry?
I do like this card. Yeah, I do. I think this is. Quite good. 5 range.
Yeah,
but
it is pretty huge ranged. That's true.
Maybe you don't even attack with this guy. You want him on the field just whenever someone attacks, they're dealing 2 damage. You're shutting them down.
Yeah, I think generally that's what you would want. Or if you're playing the new Warlord, I keep forgetting his name, but the chaplain that you Lotharius. There we go. Maybe you're able to like attack and then heal up a little bit. I mean the effect is definitely impactful. I just think at 5 energy, I don't know. I don't know if you could help this thing live. Now, again, though, if you're going all in on the vehicles and you go Battlefield Supremacy on 3 energy to reduce all your vehicles by 1 in terms of the energy cost, and you've got things or Tech Marine, and it's able to live, then maybe Invictor Warsuit does work for you, because if it has armor, or if you have a way to kind of protect it, it is going to be pretty annoying. But
they'll have to attack to kill it unless they do spells.
Yeah, well, that's the
have spells. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's got 5 health, so it's not terribly hard to whittle it down or to get rid of it. But if you're able to set up a decent curve, I could see Invictor Warsuit be decent. The thing is, it's 5 energy, and there are so many good infantry units, but maybe in a vehicle deck, this is your 5-drop.
I mean, you never get Primal Impulsor. You're never gonna get rid of that. Is like
no, that's your stock thing that you want to do.
Yeah, like you want that, but maybe this goes in instead of the Justicar.
Yeah.
I mean, the stun is good, but it's random. Sometimes you stun the Warlord, and you're just like, oh, I've just stunned him. I've just saved myself 2 damage. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe this is your other 5-drop in a vehicle build.
In a vehicle build, yeah. If you're reducing the cost and turn it into a 4 as well, you get lucky with that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Giving this armor be pretty good. Yeah, I think it's fine. I would really have to play with a vehicle build to see if this card's worth the spot.
Yeah. I like it. I think it looks cool as well.
It does look sick. I think they have maybe not a card back, but I think they have like an avatar or something that looks like it, which is sweet. Okay. Now this is a common vehicle I'm a little bit more excited for.
Seriously?
Weirdly enough. So 6 energy, 6 health, 2/5, right? Pretty bad melee stat. And then it's got a Codex trigger and flying, deal 1 damage to all enemies. So I will say I've seen this played a little bit more than some of the other cards, so I have a little bit more kind of a thought on how good it can be. So 6 energy. What other 6 energy vehicles are we running? And I think the answer is there's not too many if you're doing a vehicle build.
Yeah.
So this fills like a hole in the curve that I think is a little bit more important, right? So whether you play like, let's say, 2 Storm Speeder Hail Strike and like 2 of the Inceptor Flanker, because I still think those infantry units are really, really good. Even in your vehicle deck, I think that this actually pulls its weight because it's got flying. You're going to have to trade into it quite a bit, and it's going to deal quite a bit of damage, and it has the Codex trigger. I think that's what gets it for me, is dealing 1 damage to all enemies when you play this is like a nice upfront value. And it's got a good amount of health as a flyer, to the point where, obviously this is going to get killed easily by something like the Veteran Stormboy for the orcs, but
Yeah.
other barring that card, I think Hailstrike actually is a decent option for vehicle builds.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I think about is like Hailstrike's Codex trigger in tandem, with Dreadnought trigger gives you quite a bit of board control where you're not running Storm Raven, or like the 2 damage to everything card. You could probably just get away with Hailstrike plus Dreadnought as your ways of dealing kind of AoE damage on the board. But yeah, Harry? You sound more skeptical. I'm curious your take on this.
Look, because what you're gonna this is a vehicle deck, so yeah, you probably will run this. But on your 6 drops, yeah, you're always gonna run the flanker, no matter what. That card is serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be 6 damage, remember?
Yeah, Jesus, that's right.
Even now, 5 damage is still a serious card.
Yeah.
But Calcius, you'll be replacing for this.
You would.
Calcius is your like win condition.
Yep. I think this is the tension that I was talking about earlier, right? Is like, I think that there are just better options for a lot of the infantry units as compared to the vehicle units.
Yeah.
But with more vehicle support, it's possible that all of these vehicle synergies actually mean that the deck could be strong enough. But I think at face value, like if you were just starting out as an Ultramarine player, every single time I would tell you to play infantry units for the most part. But I think if you have a full collection and you've got all these different, we've been kind of collecting these different vehicle changes and new vehicle cards, into what could be an actually pretty competitive vehicle deck. And in certain matchups, if you're running more of these flying vehicles, or you're able to get some of the armor on your vehicles or heal them up or whatever, maybe all of that put together is actually good enough to justify a vehicle build. But yeah, I think the sentiment is we're going to be doing a lot of testing. I'm excited to open up a bunch of packs, and hopefully I can do some streaming of that or whatever, and then just literally dive in and just see if we can really do an all-in vehicle build. Because at the moment, I would be hesitant to do that. I would only play the 7-drop helicopter or this other 7-drop that we're going to talk about. And, the Impulsor, of course, because that card's just good up front. And, like, that would kind of be it. Maybe I'd run the flanking bike. But for now, we need to see the proof that it's worth running all vehicles.
Yeah, we need some testing.
All right, this is my boy, the Predator Annihilator.
Is this your boy?
This is my boy. I love the Predators. Ever since I played Dawn of War, and when I was actually playing Warhammer 40k, love the Predator tank. So I think this is a vehicle to be very excited about. I've played against it as well, and I know that this thing is actually really nasty. So 7 energy, 7 health, armor, 7 ranged attack, 4 melee.
Wow.
Yeah, this thing is just...
I'm taking it in now. You're dropping this on 7, it's doing 4 boom somewhere, and it's got armor.
It's sick. Also, the Codex trigger is fully a tank firing at you. It's pretty nasty.
You probably run this in not even vehicle decks.
Yeah, that and I think that that's the case. This card is better than the 7-drop helicopter because it deals 4 damage instead of 3 to the highest attack enemy, which is generally what you want to be hitting anyway, but it also
Yeah.
hits your warlord. It can hit your warlord for 4 damage as well, and it's a codex trigger which can be tactical incited. So just imagine you're just hitting your opponent warlord for 8 damage the turn you play this thing, right? Like,
Yeah, but you would need two drops in your hand as well.
yeah,
It don't always work like that.
that's true. You
You
would
need
you
to
would
set up,
need
yeah.
you would need to set up. But like basically the ceiling of this card is extremely high, and I think the floor of this card is still strictly better even though it doesn't have flying. I still think this thing with 7 health and 1 armor is just such a problem for your opponent.
And you might have reduced the cost down to 6 as well.
Yeah. I basically I was playing a lot of Swarm Lord at the end of the season, and last night I was playing against this card, and pretty much as soon as they played it, I lost the game. Like I lost 2 units because they did have tactical insight, and even though they were stealth,
What?
they died, and then I had to face down as a Tyrannid this Predator Annihilator, and I lost. So
Yeah.
I might be a little bit hyping this card up because I got absolutely destroyed by it, but this thing is one of the best reasons in my mind to play vehicles.
Do you think he should have been an 8?
Oh man, that's a really good question, Harry. I feel like if it was 8, would I still play? I feel like I still would. I still
Yeah.
would play it on 8, and it would be less powerful because it would come down on 8 instead of 7. Because like if you Battlefield Supremacy, this is coming down on 6.
Yeah,
And
that's why I was thinking about 8, yeah.
that's really terrifying. And also there's another card we will touch on that can reduce this down to 5. So it's like if Predator Annihilator comes out ahead of schedule, I think it's really hard to win. And even if you play it on 7 energy, or even a little bit later, I still think this card is just super strong. It can take out stealth units potentially. It can hit the warlord. It can hit their strongest attacker as soon as it comes into play. It's a ton of upfront value, and then you kind of just lose when it attacks you.
Yeah.
Is how I feel
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
the thing. This is very, very strong.
Huge stats, and it's got
Yeah.
armor. It's armor 7 health. I mean, this is kind of like our Hellbrute for Space Marines. So it doesn't have armor 2, but still armor 1, 7 health, huge attack stats, and a really relevant codex trigger. I don't know. I feel like this is exactly what you want from a later game vehicle card.
Annihilator. Yeah, that's a serious card. I looked at it, I saw it, and I knew it was serious, but I didn't take in. I just skimmed over the cards, you know. I
Yeah,
ain't faced it yet. No, I've not seen anyone playing it yet.
yeah. I think if people are itching to play with vehicles, this is probably one of the best ones to play with. So if you haven't spent your medals or like you were looking for an excuse to do it, I will enable you. Harry and I will enable you. Please go make your Predator Annihilators. Because I do think that this is the new hotness at the 7-drop slot. I would probably just cut my helicopters. Still depends on if I want to play the librarian or not, but this thing is a house of a card, I think.
Yeah, that's why I thought 8. I think they're gonna put him to 8. I think he's gonna, because a lot of people are gonna be bringing him out for so cheap, and if he's coming out so early, how do you deal with that? 1 armor, 7 like.
I had this played
Fuck.
against me on turn 6 because of Battlefield Supremacy, and we'll talk about another card that will reduce it even further. I just, unless you have removal on the spot, like this thing is killing you. is kind of how I feel. Like either your opponent has to be ahead, or they have to have Inspired Retribution, or some other removal, execution, whatever it is, because this thing will just kind of single-handedly win you the game. The Codex trigger is just so good. 4 damage. It's either really chunking one of their units, or it's hitting you for 4 in the face and then hitting you for 7. Like, that's a huge swing in momentum.
Yeah. Ugh, like that, innit? Ugh.
Look out, everybody, because the Annihilator's going to be shooting your ass to pieces, I think.
Yeah, it's sick card, man. I can't wait to get my hands on that.
All right, we got a couple cards left here.
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap things up. Okay, Oath of Moment. This is an interesting card. 2 energy. This has been unlocked, by the way, in the raid, so maybe other people in the comments can talk about their experience with this. Give +2 health and strike. Trigger this unit's codex ability. So, interesting stratagem. So 2 energy, give something +2 health is okay, you know, sort of whatever. But then strike, you get double codex triggers. So again, this is also kind of pumping up the Avenging Zeal that we were talking about earlier. Obviously, the unit has to live, right? Strike is completely gated by the fact that you have to be able to hit something and live to get the strike trigger. So you would have to play Oath of Moment on something that's relatively tanky. But I don't know, like Impulsor has 6 health. So like you could slap Oath of the Moment on the Impulsor, attack something, and then you're getting 2 troops that turn. I don't know. What do you think about this card, Harry? What's your kind of impression?
I love the art.
Yeah. That's going to look really good at level 4 with the blue Ultramarine gold.
Yeah. Other than that, I think it's probably... Because what else have you got into? You've got Humanity Shield you're never going to get rid of. You've got Hero's Respite, which you're probably going to want to keep as well.
Yeah.
Point Blank Shot would probably be something that you would swap him for that.
Yep, there's that. There's another 2 energy stratagem we'll talk about as well. Oath of the Moment, I'm not sure this is making the cut. It's kind of... It seems like more of like a win more card to me. It requires a bit of setup. I don't really know that you have the room in most deck lists to run something like this. But I could be wrong. I mean, it's possible that this is like the fact that you could, I don't know, you go Stern Guard Sergeant on 3 energy. Following turn, let's say they've attacked it to try and chip at it. You play Oath of the Moment plus another 2-drop. I mean, I think what Oath of the Moment has going for it is it's 2 energy. So it's pretty cheap. And so it's really like, okay, where are you fitting this in your curve? Are you slapping this on your Chaplain on turn 6 after you've played it, or that it's going to attack? Are you playing this on 7?
Well, even if you do end up with this later on, you can stick it on something like this. So it helps you no matter what stage of the game you're in.
Yeah. This to me feels like a one-of card. Like, I think a one-of Oath of the Moment in a Codex-heavy deck, which would most likely be a little bit more infantry-weighted, I think. I think playing one of this would be nice. Like, it could be a really good momentum kind of swing to get that extra Codex trigger on a certain board state. I don't think I would run 2 right off the bat. I'd be a little skeptical on having a handful of, stratagems. But I think I would try one of this out of the gate in deck building and see how it feels. And if it reliably has a pretty good impact, then I would try 2. But yeah, I think it's a well-designed card. I think if it cost 1, it would be too good. I think 2 is probably the right cost for it. And then the question is this strike trigger going to be impactful enough?
But you've got to remember, your unit's got a strike as well to trigger its codex. So you have to attack with the unit you're using it on. And
it's got to live. If it dies, you don't get it. So, again, it definitely requires setup. I think probably, to Harry's point, the best application of this card is actually probably slapping it on a Predator late game. Or slapping it on some very healthy unit But then you kind of have a card sitting in your hand for most of the game, so which you don't really want. And you want to be curving out. So the question is Oath of the Moment able to be integrated into the curve that you already have as Ultramarines trying to pressure? And does it give you enough bang for your buck?
I'd have liked to have seen this at 3 and
give more health. Yeah.
Because maybe to trigger the codex on 2 for 6 is always easy, but sometimes like you want to trigger it and like you need to spend 3 energy.
Yeah, you need an odd number.
Yeah, so I would have liked to have seen this at 3.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. That actually might be helpful.
2, 2, 4, 6, always easy to get your codex, but you understand sometimes you need 3 and you're like, and you just can't get the 3, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
So like this would help you out in that situation. Say you need to spend 8. You need to spend 8. You couldn't do 2 4s, but you could do a 5 and a 3. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, we'll see about this card.
Yeah.
It might need some tweaking to be good, but we'll see. Okay. This is the talk of the town. Rapid deployment, 2 energy. Choose a troop in your hand, lower its cost by 2. So this is how you play a predator on 5 energy. Because it says troop, so that's vehicle or infantry. So this is the card that I think everyone is saying is going to be way too toxic and way too good. And I think to kind of get us started talking about that, because this is really the card to talk about out of the entire reinforcement drop. I do agree with a lot of what the community has said about cost reduction cards or mana cheats. They've existed in card games forever. They typically are more powerful than people anticipate. And I don't think this is any different. And I think the fact that you can have a 5 energy predator, or potentially a librarian on 5 energy, or some of these like really impactful units that have codex triggers as well, that you can rapid deploy them is really powerful. Now, you can have a clunky hand where you've got some rapid deployments and a bunch of infantry units that are cheap or vehicles that are cheap, and this doesn't really do much for you, but it's still going to allow you to jump 2 energy, but you still have to spend 2 energy to do that, right? It's an investment. So you would have ideally you're doing this on turn 1 or 2. You do lose tempo for doing that. So rapid deployment is not going to be the best in some situations if your opponent is aggressing you and you're not developing a board. However, I do think that when you combine rapid deployment with some of these really strong later game cards, that you're getting enough tempo back that it might just not matter.
So you make this on turn 5 and you can put this on
yes.
But on my turn 5, I want to drop an impulsor. I don't want to drop.
That's true.
Annihilator. You know what I'm saying?
So what if you? What if I tell you, Harry, you can play your impulsor on turn 3? On 3 energy.
Nah, yes. Nah, that's serious. You're never gonna deal with it. Unless, all right, there are some cases.
You can.
Chaos Marines.
Yeah, Chaos usually has the answer, but.
Impulsor on turn 3, and then by the time turn 5 comes around, you've activated its codex twice, and you've got all these people on the board.
Yeah.
You've got all attack. Serious things.
Yeah. Watch out, everybody. I think we might be having an Ultramarine summer with this card. And I agree with the critiques. I think it's tough. So on one, I want to play the devil's advocate for a second, because I think most people do not like this card, and I get why. And I'm not saying I necessarily like it. I do think that these kind of effects can be pretty toxic in card games, especially in competitive. On the other side of this card is people wanting to build decks that have higher curves. Let's say putting Dreadnoughts, Redemptor Dreadnought, in their deck. I have liked that card less and less as time has gone by. However, I might like it if I got to play it on turn 6 or 6 energy.
Phew.
Right?
Plus, you might be able to play it on turn 5 because you might have had the legendary that reduces.
Yeah. So it allows for potentially more of this all-in vehicle, like high curve, kind of drop haymakers kind of strategy, which is not going to be consistent, right? You're going to lose games where you don't draw your rapid deployment, or you do draw it and you don't really have enough board presence to not die, right? But it does allow for you to kind of combo off, which is something that players do enjoy, and it does allow you to maybe run a higher curve and play more of these high end vehicles. Even your oh, I'm blanking on the name. Is it the repulsor? That's the 10 energy, deal 8 damage to something when it comes to play. So you could play that on 8 with rapid deployment. So it opens up the deck building. Executioner, thank you. It opens up deck building a little bit because it's a cost reduction card that can really impact a deck that's trying to go way higher curve. But on face value, I think cards like this are a problem. And just as emergency dispensation for the Tau at 3 energy is like an insane card because you get to choose something from your deck and get the cost reduction by 3 for 3 energy, rapid deployment is not as good because you have to have the card in your hand. But it is still nuts that you've got tactical insight and rapid deployment as 2 ways to cheat 2 energy. So I think the combination of rapid deployment, tactical insight, and things like Avenging Zeal with like all the codex stuff, it might be that is a little too much. That it's a little overtuned.
Yeah.
I don't know, Harry. What do you think about these kinds of cards in card games? Because I know you've played quite a few card games as well.
I play loads of like more time it works out in your favor. A lot of time, like you said, you're sitting there with it in your hand and you're like, oh, I ain't got what I need to reduce this price. If the stars align and you get your Annihilator out on turn 6, turn 5 even with a thing, could be serious problems. But you got to draw your Annihilator.
Yes.
That's which makes this.
yeah. The rage allows you to draw it.
You do want to play this on turn 2. You want to get this out of the way. You don't want to be doing this on 5 and then reducing your total mana to 3 on turn 5, and you're just like jugged. Like, do you know what I'm saying? You want to get out early as quick as possible, really.
Yeah. You want to play this definitely as early as possible, and you want to have it make an impact. You want it to be on a target that is really impactful. Like an Impulsor, like a Predator, like a Redemptor Dreadnought potentially. But yeah, I mean, there are going to be games where you lose because it's stranded in your hand, or just is not really usable. But yes, it also is going to make it so when you high roll as an Ultramarines player, you high roll really hard. And so you go rapid deployment into a Pulsar, or rapid deployment, play your 3 and 4, and then play your Predator on 5. It's going to be not fun to play against, and at the same time, yes, it'll be kind of fun to play with, but sometimes it's also going to be frustrating. So I don't know. I mean, I think if this costed any more, it probably would not be terribly playable. I think the question with rapid deployment, because this is what armored support used to do, right? It used to draw you a vehicle at 3 energy and reduce it by 2. And that card actually used to be not broken, but it was like decent. And then they changed armored support completely. So they wanted to clearly make a new card with rapid deployment that kind of has that old cost reduction kind of theme to it. But now it's a more efficient, targeted version of that. So my impression is that this is going to be powerful, and it probably will need a change. but I want to see how it all pans out.
Yeah, I want to see as well. I want to see what
Oh man, we got our
what
last card here. Yeah.
last. Yeah.
Last but sort of not least, armor defensive. 5 energy.
Oh,
Create 3 vehicles in your hand, and they cost 1 less.
you wouldn't run 2 of these. This is a one-off in a vehicle deck.
Definitely a one of, and I'm not. So what I would do, here's what I would tell people to do. I would literally try playing this card and see what it does, right? Because when it says create 3 Ultramarine vehicles in your hand, my impression of that is how Armored Support used to work, where you're getting 3 vehicles that could or could not be in your deck. So let's say you're running a vehicle deck, but you chose not to play Redemptor Dreadnought. It's possible that one of those 3 vehicles is a Redemptor Dreadnought. So what I kind of want to see from this card, kind of like Emergency Protocol with the Tau, is what random vehicles are you getting and how often are you getting them, right? Is this giving you like 3 scout bikes or like 2 scout bikes and an impulsor? Is this giving you a Redemptor Dreadnought and a Predator, right? Like I kind of want to see what armor defensive literally in terms of like the random generation is giving you most of the time.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a little clunky. Like for my taste, the one less is somewhat attractive, and you know you are paying 5 energy to draw 3 cards, and you're getting your 3 energy back essentially, right? Because they're getting their costs reduced by that. I don't know. What do you think, Carrie? Is this good, bad, middle?
The thing is, you never want to play this on 5. You know, you're gonna have way better options on 5. You got your impulsor. You know what I'm saying? You got your you've even got your other thing that you maybe they're like.
Yeah.
But like, it could help. You know, like it could. This is more of your Khadgar. Yeah, this is more of your Calgar.
I agree.
Like your control. Later on in the game, you might throw this down and get 3 vehicles. It's random, but luckily, there ain't really terrible vehicles. You know?
Yeah, they're all doing something.
Yeah, so if you get 3 vehicles, you're bound to get 2 good/okay ones. You might get 1 land speeder. You might get 1 of these. You might get 1 of them. You know, you still like.
Yeah.
Or you could get lucky. You could get your annihilator. You could end up get like executioner, whatever you get. I do like it because I like getting random stuff in my hands because it makes every game different from the one before.
Yeah. This is also a very beginner-friendly card because whenever you're able to generate cards outside of your card pool, that's generally pretty nice when you start out, right? Because if this snags you a Redemptor Dreadnought, you don't have the access to that card or a Predator or whatever. That's kind of a nice thing for starting players. And even though we've been playing this game for quite a while, you know, other people who are starting out might actually really love this card. I think competitively, there's a lot of question marks if this would make it, but I totally agree with Harry. You're probably only able to afford running this if you're playing Calgar. I don't think you would want to really try this in some of the 35 health Warlord builds. So yeah, I don't anticipate seeing this really in competitive builds, but I think this is a great starter card and maybe makes it as a one-of in certain vehicle Calgar builds.
Yeah, just the one-off maybe. I don't know. Look, until we get to play with them,
we don't know.
But there's some good cards. Been this one. Like there are some good. This one. Like there are some good. Imagine that you get that on 5. You get that for 5.
I think if we were to rate, I mean that is pretty nice. If we were to rate this reinforcement drop, I would say that it hit a pretty decent balance, unless Rapid Deployment is truly just like a degenerate card, which it might be. Um,
Yeah.
I would say everything else is like relatively decent power level. It's not crazy. It's not, running away with the game, but it's also not underpowered. Like I think a lot of these cards have an interesting application. And I like that we're seeing more of the vehicle archetype built out so that people actually can run a competitive vehicle build. Because I've been
Yeah.
pretty off it, even with the reworks, but I'm honestly really excited to test these cards after I crack some packs after the raid.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
yeah, we're going to have, I'll definitely be doing as much streaming as I can after the raid is done because we'll have drops and we'll have, people can open their packs and get their Ultramarine cards. So, we definitely got some exciting stuff coming up, and I appreciate Harry going through all the cards and showing us and talking about this today as always. So, any closing thoughts, Harry? Any feelings about this reinforcement drop? What's to come?
I wasn't really. I never thought too much about it because I just was just gonna. I'm just playing. Now that I've spoke to you and I've had the deeper thought on yeah, man, I'm excited to see this card.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this one. Really excited for this one. I don't know. I'm thinking about this one. I do think I'll try him.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Annihilator is like going in a deck straight
Oh,
away, going in every meta
so
Space
good.
Marine deck. Like that is cool. That is cool. Like,
Dude, give me more tanks. I know we're gonna get a Land Raider at some point, and I cannot wait for it. But the Predator was a nice touch. I'm glad we got that.
Predator. Oh, what? No, that is the Predator, isn't it?
That's the Predator,
Oh,
but
no.
yeah, we'll get the
Why
Land
did they
Raider
give
at
it
some
two
point.
cool names like Predator Annihilator? Like, what? How can you be called a Predator Annihilator? That's like.
Because they have different types of Predators, I think.
Oh.
And this one has las guns, I think, on the top. And I think some of I think there's a Predator that just is more infantry that has like other machine guns in it. I think it has a different name. I could be wrong about that, but
It makes sense though, because then they'll bring out Predator Annihilator, Predator this, Predator that, and then there might be a card that like is like give you a random Predator, reduces cost by 2.
that would be nuts. But yeah, I think what's fun about this is like some of these cards jump out as being pretty powerful, but some of them are like we really have to test it, and I do like that. It feels like we're gonna go into, the shop and try these things out, and that there will be some nice additions because I really wasn't sure if we were gonna get this reinforcement drop for quite a while, and I have to say, as an Ultramarines main player, I'm pretty psyched for it. So
when they announced this, I knew you was gonna be so happy about it.
oh my
like,
god, yeah.
They could have
I've
given
been
us
waiting.
anything, and you'd have been over the moon with it. Like,
Yep, any new cards, and I would have been jumping for joy. So, yeah. So I'm sure we'll be back, in a couple weeks, with some more card talk to, hopefully be discussing not just either the Gene Stealers or the Kroot reinforcement, but hopefully we'll also get to talk about the alliances coming out. But yeah, I think this reinforcement drop has gone over pretty well, minus some of the negativity, understandably, about the rapid deployment. So I'm hoping a lot of the new players are enjoying the new cards and having fun with the raid event. But I'm sure we'll be back with more and more fun stuff for Warpforge in the not too distant future.
and let us know if you want to be in our alliance in the comments.
Yes.
Because me and
Of
Tim are
course.
going to be making an alliance.
I mean, we kind of have to, right? Like, I feel like we're missing an opportunity if we don't. So, yeah, thanks everybody so much for sticking with the channel and hanging out with Harry and I. I literally look forward to these episodes every time we do them. I'm hoping in the near future, once I get other stuff settled, we could do more of it. But for now, we'll always do our best to get at least one of these episodes to y'all each time there's something new going on. So,
yeah.
Thanks so much, Harry. You
Thanks for having me, man.
Of course, my
Thanks.
guy. We got our Ultramarine reinforcements, so we're sitting pretty over here.
Yeah.
So we will.
I'm excited for this guy now.
Yeah. Oh, I am too. At first I was like, eh, but then you read that Warlord card and you're like, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like Gazkul, but you either draw a card or you pump your guys. So, yeah. Until next time, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us, and let us know.
Everyone.
Yeah, let us know what you think in the comments of this reinforcement drop, and also if you have other suggestions for episodes in the future, we're always down to hear that. But until next time.